The Igualada Cemetery was constructed by Enrique Miralles and Carme Pinos from 1985 to 1994, spanning over half a decade. Miralles and Pinos won a 1986 competition in order to construct the cemetery. It is located on the outer edge of Barcelona, Spain, just outside of the industrial center of the city. The cemetery is set up in a zigzagging formation and looks like a letter Z, with tombs lining the interior and trees populating the exterior. The structure is made of concrete, steel, and stone. The cemetery includes a gated entrance, a chapel, a mortuary, and numerous burial places arranged in rows along the open sides of the main building, where loved ones can place flowers and other tokens for the deceased. Enrique Miralles was buried in one of the tombs in Igualada Cemetery after his death in 2000. From an aerial view, Igualada Cemetery seems to be sunken into the very land on which it is built, immediately appearing as a place of both transition and isolation. There are large stick-like structures made of iron at the entrance of the cemetery, much like gates separating the cemetery from the rest of the world. The cemetery is reminiscent of the cenotaphic tombs of ancient Egypt in its development of a city for the dead, far from the living populace of Barcelona's busy streets. However, the trees that closely surround it bring a feeling of life and growth to the area, seeming to bury it in their leafy branches. The cemetery at once echoes the feeling of the land on which it exists, without completely blending into its surroundings. The winding paths that travel back into the area and the overhanging concrete roofs contribute to the feeling that the Igualada Cemetery is worked into the fabric of the land that was there prior to its construction. The cemetery integrates the history of the space as most of Miralles' pieces do. Miralles is known for incorporating the existing space and history in his work. In the design for his personal apartment, tiles and statues that had been found at the location were worked into the building. This also is how the Igualada Cemetery was designed, using the surrounding landscape to highlight the building itself, allowing for an interplay between old and new. In the design of Igualada Cemetery, Miralles and Pinos used a niche system, wherein the area was dug out and the building was constructed in the space created for it. As time passed, trees grew over the area and in a sense buried the cemetery. Though the cemetery is distant from the living world of Barcelona, the trees growing over it as years passed call into question whether the space is that of the living or of the dead. The architecture in the Igualada Cemetery makes one question whether death itself is the end of life altogether, or if it just makes way for new life. Though it provides no answers, the Igualada Cemetery stands as a testament to the questioning the afterlife can bring, and the comfort that architecture can provide.